Hey guys, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
We're two lifelong friends and musicians, but when we're not playing gigs, we like to talk games.
And today on the Game and Gig podcast, we are discussing the differences of storytelling in movies versus storytelling in games.
All right, so something that's been on my mind a lot lately is games versus movies in terms of, a storytelling medium. Obviously games and movies are very different from each other, but one thing they both try to do is tell a story. It kind of reminds me of the debate of like the book versus the movie. It's kind of like a similar thing where they're different mediums, but they're trying in some ways to accomplish the same task.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that this has been troubling you so much, man, but I'm glad we're going to air it out today.
Well, it's not been troubling me, but it's been something I'm thinking about because I've been playing the Guardians of the Galaxy video game.
Right.
And, I was introduced to Guardians of the Galaxy through the movies.
Yep, me too.
And never read the comics or anything, but, I saw the movies and enjoyed the movies. But now that I'm playing the game, obviously it's a different story, but it has made me think about, what do I like better in terms of like experiencing a story? Would I rather experience it through a game or would I rather experience it through a movie?
Well, I had a similar experience because I'm also playing Guardians, and we both talked about how it made us want to go watch the movies.
Right.
And I actually did it. So I watched the first one, and then I'm halfway through the second one. I really love them both. But what really caught my attention is some of the differences, like story beats, honestly. Like in the game, they often just like in passing discuss Drax killing Thanos. And so I went and like Googled that and looked that up because that's not how it went down in the movies.
No.
But this may be a little off topic, but Drax in the comics is actually from Earth. And he dies, I think, and then like gets a new body with like the sole purpose of killing Thanos. And he gets like infinitely stronger the closer his proximity is to Thanos. Just a fun fact.
Whoa, that is weird.
Yeah. And he does kill him.
So, but...
and in some iteration,
But what this process has made me realize is I was like, because I also went back, actually last night, Catherine and I started watching the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And I was instantly hit with how different the mediums are. Like, even though this game is very cinematic, there are some really big differences. And in some ways, I think we can go ahead and get into this, into which one we prefer, because I think this is going to be something we disagree on, I think, is that I realized that I vastly preferred the experience of this, of a similar story with the same characters through a video game than I did the movie. Not that the movie wasn't good from what I've seen so far, and I've already seen it, but when I've rewatched, I just realized, like, man, I really enjoyed the gaming experience more. And one of the main reasons was, and it's going to seem weird, but two big things like jumped out to me at first. One was the graphics style, like, because it's a very like sci-fi game and like a sci-fi experience. The video game, really was able to capture that, like, those sci-fi elements in a way that I think felt more true to the genre in a way. Not that the movie didn't do a good job, but like, these are not realistic looking characters, and they're in the game, they're more like maybe akin to the way I would imagine a comic book character to look, or stuff like that. And then also the frame rate. I realized like that the movie frame rate, I guess it was at 24 frames per second, I'm guessing.
I guess.
And it felt very different. Like, the immersion just felt very different. And then also colors. Like, the video game was so vibrant and colorful, and the movie had, like, a lot of those movies have a certain palette. And it's like there's a limited number of colors in some movies. They kind of stick to a certain range. And it just felt very, I don't know, something about it just didn't feel as good to me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to break down there.
There is. You went way far there.
But
so just to kind of counter that, I think for the most part I prefer movies. But that being said, I think that's because there hasn't been enough games for me that like did it better than a movie. And as you know, like my favorite game of all time is The Last of Us Part 1.
Right.
And I think my second favorite game of all time is The Last of Us Part 2. And I think you should just play those back to back like you should watch The Godfather Part 1 and 2 back to back. And I think that's the greatest story ever told.
Don't care. Through a video game.
Yeah, don't care what movie you're talking, or movie, book. Don't care what you're talking about. But I have not found any other games that even came close to that peak. And I keep looking behind camera because I even have a Last of Us poster. Like it's that good. Like it moved me.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen a lot of games do that, and I can't say that I've ever considered like, oh, maybe it's a frame rate, difference. But you're right. I mean, movies I guess are at 24 for the most part. And obviously, your game rate, your frame rate in games differs, depending on what you're playing on and all that. But there's a lot of variables, in a game versus a movie.
There is, yeah.
You've got your voice acting, you got your graphical styles, like kind of what you talked about.
I mean, like let's talk about graphics because I think that's a big one, right? Like we are starting to get to where graphics in games are much, much better. I mean, like even just briefly before we started this podcast, I did a Google search of famous actors in video games, because this is something we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But I noticed like games that were even if games that just came out 10, 15 years ago, I was like, man, graphics have come such a long way in the last decade.
Yes, they have.
To where this used to not, I would say that the graphics in movies a decade ago were way ahead of games. Mm-hmm. But now games are starting to catch up, or in my opinion, maybe even be able to be better in some ways in that they aren't limited to, gosh, I don't know how to put this. Because obviously movies can have amazing graphics and probably better than some video games in some ways.
Yeah.
But the video games are able to be stylized in a way that is kind of like, how like some animated films can have extraordinary graphics and they don't have to be realistic.
Yeah. Well, that's what you really are breaking it down to. Like, is it real life versus like stylized graphics?
Right.
And unless you're doing like an animated movie, like Into the Spider-Verse just came to mind because that movie was super stylized and insane, and it looked so good.
Right. Yeah.
First movie I ever watched on my 4K TV. It was awesome. But I mean, sometimes you would want that real to life look, and then that also like kind of makes me think of practical effects versus digital effects. Like I'm a big Star Wars guy, and those original trilogy movies to a large degree used a lot of practical effects, and the new movies maybe not so much, and I kind of prefer the old ones. And I don't know if that's because I'm an old like Star Wars curmudgeon purist or not, but there's a lot there. And I think it really just depends on context.
I think it does too. I think it absolutely does. Because I was thinking about like, like so many games are trying to go for that like super, almost real to life graphic style. But they still have the ability to be this uber stylized thing, and movies can too, but it's just very, very interesting. And I think the more we start to see crossovers between video games and movies, or them sharing genres or sharing characters like we have with Guardians of the Galaxy and many other options, we are going to start to see some very interesting differences. And I think people will start to make these comparisons, just like they have forever about the book versus the movie.
Yeah.
I think we're going to start to see more and more that the game versus the movie. That conversation will start to come up more and more.
Yeah, and then people just stop reading books.
Like we have, books are no longer going to be there.
Books are done.
But we got like the Mario movie coming out.
Oh, yeah.
With the Sonic movies that come out.
How did I forget about the Mario movie?
And like these are going to be some very interesting. I don't think we're going to be done talking about this anytime soon. But
we'll definitely talk about that Mario movie.
Oh, yes, we will. Let's talk about voice acting now.
Okay,
because here's the thing about...
voice acting is just, it can be so hit or miss. Like
it can't...
And I think that's my big hang up with saying like I would prefer games.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing like, I know this is not a movie at all, but I'm playing Triangle Strategy, and I love that game, but the voice acting sucks.
Yeah.
Like it's so generic. Like these people are like embroiled in this like once in a lifetime like political turmoil fueled war that rages across a continent, and then their voice actors just aren't exactly selling me on it.
Right. But I guess like that game's purpose isn't to tell a story. Like I guess like
yes, it is.
You think it is?
Yes, it is huge.
It's not about the gameplay. It's more about like
it's about the gameplay too, but
right.
it is hugely story driven. There's
Well-
like choices that you make, and
Well, I haven't played the game, so I shouldn't
Yeah.
speak out of turn there because I obviously don't know.
it is huge. It's very like it's kind of Game of Thronesy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, but now, then again, but we're getting better and better voice actors in games. Like, I don't want to just beat on the same drum over and over, but because I'm playing Guardians of the Galaxy, I realize like the voice acting in that game is really good.
Yeah, it is. The voice acting is really good in that one.
Yeah. Like I think about, I played, sometime last year, I played the Psychonauts 2 game. That game had really good voice acting. We joked about Jack Black. You joked about Jack Black when we were talking about it. I didn't realize that he is actually in that game, which is so funny. That
Really?
we just made a joke about it, and he happened to actually be in the game.
And I bet he goes all in because that's what
Oh,
he does.
he does. It's and after the fact, I realized, of course, that was Jack Black. Why didn't I realize it?
And need I bring up If I Ever Were to Lose You in The Last of Us Part 2?
Oh gosh.
Talk about some
sing.
voice acting. I'm not crying.
You're
Y'all are
crying.
crying.
You're crying. So, and obviously movies in general have better actors because they are bigger money makers. But I'm starting to think that I bet that games are starting to give movies a run for their money in terms of how much money they produce.
I don't know. I mean, we don't have any numbers to back that up, but
I would even bet that some games make more than, because think about it, they say that GTA 5 is one of the most profitable, franchises of all, one single thing of all time. I bet it's made more than many movies.
oh, definitely.
I don't know how much it's made, but
Yeah.
it's made so much, right? So the money is starting to be there to where famous actors are in these games,
Right.
and it's starting to be more and more common that a game will have a very famous actor in it because games are starting to be able to be lucrative to the point to where they can do that.
Yeah. And we've been seeing that, more and more lately, but even going back to some of my earlier experiences with more modern games, I guess you could say, with Fallout. Ron Perlman's been narrating Fallout longer than I even realized. I thought he started on Fallout 3, but he's actually done Fallout 1, 2, 3, New Vegas, and Tactics. Of course, he wasn't actually in the game. He just narrated the intro, but that's a big-name actor.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, more recently, we've had Norman Reedus in Death Stranding, and, of course, Keanu Reeves in Cyberpunk.
Norman Reedus was going to be in what is it? The other.
Is it that zombie game?
No. The other. It's a. Gosh, why am I blanking on the name? It's a horror game. It is a horror game, and maybe it is a zombie game.
Is it that movie or that game where you're...
The game that didn't come out. He was in the playable trailer.
Oh, it didn't come out.
Yeah. It's Silent Hill.
Oh, Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's been a while.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
been a while.
I didn't realize he was.
He was
in
going to be because he was in the playable trailer for that.
What was that called?
PT.
PT.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And then also Keanu Reeves very not too long ago, last year I guess. Was it last year? Yeah.
Feels like an eternity ago.
Cyberpunk.
But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is in that, and Keanu Reeves did a great job in that one. So,
Yeah, and he was also in The Matrix Reloaded.
Yeah. I mean, we have more and more. It's big actors are in games, and obviously, and there are starting to be games it's a whole genre now, and it's been around for a while. But basically, these interactive movies. Where it's basically a movie, but you do make decisions or you interact with it in some way. I think about Until Dawn,
Yeah.
which had Rami Malek and other famous actors in it. But that was a game that was meant to be an interactive movie. It really was. It's basically a horror movie, but it's interactive.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of gameplay to it besides walking around where you need to go and
Well, that's how Death Stranding was.
participating in some. Have you played Death Stranding?
No, but it caught a lot of flack for being the biggest walking simulator of the year.
Did I tell you about that game? I haven't played it yet.
No, you didn't. But Nick loves it.
I want to give it a go because I really want to make my own because it seems so polarizing.
Yeah, it does. People gave it a lot of flack for being a hugely boring walking simulator in the first half. But who is it? Kojima?
Kojima, yeah.
He said it was...
Kojima's the one that was on that Silent Hill thing, right? So.
Yes. He said it was supposed to be laborious in the first half, and then he defended it. But Nick loves it, so it's probably quality.
Yeah, I want to give it a go. I bought the updated version. There was a new edition of it come out not too long ago. Maybe like a director's cut or something. I don't know what it was called. But I bought that.
The Snyder Cut.
The Snyder Cut. Yeah, I bought the Snyder Cut of it. So like, you know, games versus movies. I do think that games in general, you know, if like a new, say like if I had a book that I read and I really liked it and they were going to turn it into a movie or a game, I would be more excited about them turning it into a game than a movie.
Yeah. I don't know if I would or not because, you know, historically I haven't loved like game adaptations of movies like as much. I mean, when I was a kid, I did love like those Lord of the Rings games. Those were fun.
But I mean, like the technology's gotten so
yeah,
much better.
I know. It's a different world.
Right?
So I don't know. I mean, and I do love Guardians, but Guardians is not an adaptation of the movie.
No,
So-
not at all.
I don't know. And people really didn't like Avengers, but I didn't play it.
I didn't play. I don't know what that's based on.
And I don't think that's an
And
adaptation of a
also
movie either.
that's, yeah, and obviously depends on the intention of the game.
It does.
You know, if it's meant to tell, it'd be a storytelling medium, and that's like it's kind of where the argument here is like
Yeah.
which one is better as a storytelling medium. And like I think about like stories sometimes take time, and that's one of my big things I have against movies is that oftentimes it, you know, even though nowadays people don't mind 3-hour movies or longer. But generally, movies try to stick to that like 2-hour mark,
Yeah.
which would be an incredibly short game.
Yes, it
so
would.
a game can really get into the nitty gritty of a story, and you can take your 20 hours to tell a story like The Last of Us. You know,
And that's why The Last of Us isn't going to be made into a movie. It's going to be made into a show.
right? Yeah,
And that's a whole nother
that's a
debate.
whole other thing we're gonna have to watch and talk about.
Yes, we are.
I have to watch that.
Oh, yeah.
I really want it to be good.
I do too.
Because you know it is all. I'm also a huge fan of The Last of Us, and that's a franchise that I feel very you know passionate about and love. You know, I want more Last of Us content. I don't know that I want a show. I'd rather have another game,
Yeah, me too.
which apparently the rumor is they're remaking The Last of Us. I don't know.
I don't. I mean, cool. I'll play a remastered Last of Us again.
No, not a remaster, a remake. Yeah, they've already
remastered it, right?
Yeah.
I played that, but I don't want. I don't really think that's the best move.
Do you think they should do a part 3?
I don't know, or just leave it and let it be like one of the greatest things to ever exist on this earth, and don't tarnish it.
I think there
its
could
legacy.
be more story to be told,
Yeah.
and I think that a
they
part
could
3
do it.
would be fine with me.
Would you want it to continue? I mean, I don't. Can we talk
Tell me
about
about
the
it.
end of part 2? I mean, can we?
Well, I mean, we could say like, do I want it to continue with the the established characters?
Yeah.
Yes. If that's what you're
Yeah.
gonna ask, yes, I do want
me
that.
too. I would not be pleased if our
If
main
they moved
girl.
if they moved in a different direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
characters.
I mean, maybe I would play it. I mean,
What I'm saying is, I think that the characters still have more to
Me
do
too.
and more to say, and I think it would be great to see that. But yeah, I mean, like
Those games make me so
takes a
sad.
time to tell that deep of a story.
Right.
It takes time. You can't rush it. You can't do it in 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Last of Us movie that was 2 hours long, I don't think would be able to
It
tell the
wouldn't hit.
story in a satisfactory way.
no, it would suck. I mean, I don't know.
Especially like a Last of Us Part 2 movie. You know, it just wouldn't. There's no way.
That'd be impossible.
It'd be impossible, right? There's too much nuance and there's too much character building, and it just can't be done in that short of a time.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to pacing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to take your time, and games can do that. And they can even, not only can you make the main story take the appropriate length of time, but you can even break that crap up with side missions, and you can completely take a break from the main story. So,
Which I think is a double-edged sword, right? Because
Yeah.
one, you can take the time that you need to tell a story, but also movies are highly curated, like in terms of like how they're paced. They're paced in a way that's meant to like emotionally grab you and like bring you along and,
Oh, yeah.
and not lose your attention. So like where games can do that, but often are maybe too slow.
yeah,
And like I said, it's a double-edged sword because you might need that time to tell the story, and it may feel better to kind of chill on something for a little while and like let it sink in, instead of just moving on to the next thing.
yeah.
But it's a tough one. This is a really tough thing to get into, and
And do you think like of course like we want The Last of Us to take as long as it needed to take, but do you think the layman who's like not into games, would they feel that way, or would they be like, nah, just make me a movie?
it's tough.
Because we know everything about The Last of Us, so we're coming at it hindsight's 2020.
Right. I think it's the same argument as the book versus the movie, where maybe the layperson would rather just see a movie than read the book because it's the same sort of time commitment, sort of trade off.
Agreed.
Gosh, it's a tough one, but I do think that games right now in my life, I would rather play in terms of telling me a story. I like interacting with it. I like feeling like I'm a part of the story. Whereas a movie is very much just a sit back.
Passive.
It's passive, and gaming is active.
True that. And there's definitely a lot of situations where I would agree with you. Like, I feel like I can make a pretty certain statement that I would rather play a Mario game than watch the Mario movie that's unreleased.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Like, you never know, right?
It could be better than Odyssey.
Okay.
See, that's a laughable statement.
I mean, it could be very good, though. We just don't know.
It could be very good.
We just don't know.
Jack Black's in it, so we've got hope.
Jack Black is in it, yeah. So I think, overall, I think I'd rather play a game, but I don't know. Let's, you got any final thoughts before we move on to the poll?
Not really. It's just a complicated thing, and it's I just have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
I mean...
But
I love games, but I like good movies too.
See, but I'm trying to argue to make you think games are better, and I do think it's interesting that your favorite story ever told is in a video game.
Yeah.
So, right?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think they have potential to be better.
Yeah.
I just don't see people pulling it off consistently.
I think
Naughty Dog is
movies
special.
are probably more consistent than games in terms of doing a better job.
Yeah.
But I think that's starting to change.
Well, I hope so, because if we can get more things like The Last of Us, I'm in.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So...
I could just rant about The Last of Us endlessly.
And me too. So let's move on to our poll, which is completely unrelated.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Who gives a crap?
Who cares? This is interesting. What was your first gaming device? That was our poll. And the options were a console, a handheld, and a PC.
Yeah. So 57% of people said the same thing I said, which was a console. 25% of people said handheld, and 18% said PC. And I'm assuming you were like me and you started on a console.
I did start on a console, yes. My first gaming device was the Nintendo 64 when I was 4 or 5. It was maybe 1995 or 96 when did the 64 come out. I think it was 1996, and I think I was 5 years old. And we got it on around launch. No, maybe not exactly at launch. I think we got it the holiday.
N64, June 23rd, 1996.
Okay, we got it around Christmas time of 1996. So I was 5 years old. About to turn 6.
Yeah. So that was your first one. My first one was actually an original Nintendo that my parents bought from a friend. They were selling it, or didn't want it anymore. And,
do you remember how old you were?
No, but I was pre-N64. And
Early 90s.
I was really young, so probably couldn't do anything too substantial on it, but I'd go up there and play Duck Hunt and
right, yeah, okay.
We had the original Mario. We had this game called POW, I think, which is a beat 'em up. So I had a lot of fun with that, and I also had a Super Nintendo. I'm wondering if I got my N64 a little late or something, because I have definite memories of playing the Super Nintendo. And the way the timeline would add up, if we're 5 when the N64 comes out, it would have been a short window for me to have long-term memories established of playing the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what year I got my N64. Might have been a year or two after you, because your house was the first place I ever played Star Fox 64 and things like that. So
yeah,
I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, we were definitely early. We were the first place I remember seeing an N64. I mean, obviously I lived there, but I don't remember any friends having it until after me and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think we got into it fairly early because my dad was, he was really into planes, owned a plane and stuff like that. And it was really all about him wanting to play Pilot Wings, which was a launch title on the N64.
That's funny that your dad wanted to play Pilot Wings.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think about it now, and he was younger. He was when I was.
He was younger than we are now.
Yeah, but not then. See, he would have been.
Oh, not then. Yeah.
Yeah, because he would have been 34. 34.
Yeah.
So he would have been a couple years older than me. But think about it. In a couple of years, if a new system launched and it came with a game that I was very interested in, I would get into it. You know. So I mean, it's not that weird.
No, that's not weird.
My dad loved the N64. He played the N64 all the time.
My dad, I don't know if my dad's ever held an N64 controller.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, my dad was very much. He played games with us all the time. All the time.
My dad never played video games with me.
Yeah. Now, after the N64 era, he got to the age where he was out of games. But during the N64 era, during the early, mid '90s, up into the early 2000s, he played with us all the time, or he played by himself. He, he especially Pilot Wings. That was like his jam. In fact, a couple years ago, I bought Pilot Wings again because I somehow along the way the cartridge was lost, sold. I did sell some games and stuff at one point. So either way, we didn't have any more. So I bought another copy of it, and he told me, he's like, "You gotta let me know when you get it because I want to come over and play it." He never did, but he wanted to.
But he was real nice and open to it.
He was open to it.
My dad plays Flight Simulator because our dads are similar in that they're both into planes and aviation and all that.
Right, yeah.
And my dad plays Flight Simulators on his PC.
As is
and
my
I know,
dad.
I know your dad does too.
Yeah, he loves it. He still does it. My dad still bought. He actually just not too long ago, maybe like half a year, maybe even a year ago, bought a very nice gaming laptop so that he could play Flight Simulators on it.
I bet that thing is sick too.
Dude, he got a really nice one.
Yeah. So we had a comment here from Jacob Trost. Said, shout out to Freddie Fish on my dad's Intel Pentium 4. Probably played that game about 100 times when I was 3.
Dude, and this just, I love this comment because it reminds me of, I didn't start off with we didn't have a PC until around the same time we got the N64, we got a PC. But I don't remember playing any games on it until maybe a couple of years later. But I did play a lot of these very early computer games.
Yeah.
And man,
shout out to Roller Coaster Tycoon.
It really just brings back so many memories to think about playing these old, or educational games on an old PC. Man, I
little
love
Oregon Trail action.
Oregon Trail. I didn't have Oregon Trail, but my neighbor did. I actually thought about that the other day. I want to go back and play that just to see what it was like because I remember loving that game.
You'll catch
on my
dysentery,
neighbor's
bro.
PC. I know I will. I don't want to catch dysentery, but I want to play the game. So I want to go back and play that. But I would kill to go back and play some of those old, early games and still, that was just such a cool era.
It was.
Of course, it's like super nostalgic for me now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think back to those games and they look so good in your memory. And
but it was just so
good
much fun. It was just like so much fun. It was like, I remember playing some educational game and one part of it was a reading game. It was like Reading Rabbit.
Oh, Reading Rabbit, yeah.
Okay.
I remember that.
And there's a part of the game where you were supposed to record yourself with a microphone and record yourself reading a sentence so you could hear back. I guess that was what you're supposed to do. We would just record ourselves being silly, and we had so much fun in that game, just recording ourselves and listening back.
Do you remember, that reminds me of not very long ago at all, when we were way too old to get a kick out of this sort of thing, but do you remember when I got my current car, and it would read text messages
Okay.
in this robot voice, it would just like read it to you immediately. And I feel like you were with us when we did this. I did this a number of times, specifically with Frankie. And we would just send the dumbest crap to my phone just to hear my car read it.
No, I don't remember that. You must have been with just Frankie.
Okay.
I must not have been there.
Well,
That's ridiculous. That's you're much too old to be getting that kind of fun out of especially since voice to text stuff has been around for so long.
It was something special about just hearing
Maybe
the car say it.
Yeah.
And it had an especially like robotic voice, and it would say anything.
You would say anything.
So
That's hilarious. Next comment we got Abel said, my family didn't have a PC with games, but I think my first gaming platform was either a Wii or a DS. Can't remember which I had first. So that was
must be younger than us, Abel.
younger than us, yes, but that for a lot of people, that era of games, the Wii DS era, was like when they got into gaming, and I think that was such a cool era of gaming to get into gaming, because that was like Nintendo at their once peak. I think they've actually gone past that now. I think we're gonna see that. Give us another 15, 20 years from now, we're gonna be looking back at the Switch era and being like, gosh. Because this is
huge.
Because the Switch has sold more than the Wii now. It's going to be remembered as a peak, just like the Wii DS era was, because that was a huge time for Nintendo.
Yeah,
created a lot of Nintendo fans.
Oh yeah. So moving on, we got City Badger. He said, "Is it Colico? Coleco. I always
Vision.
mess that up. ColecoVision with the adapter for Atari 2600 cartridges. So shout out to City Badger and Jimmy S for, carrying the torch for the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
Which we're going to play some Atari 2600 soon, hopefully.
Yeah, I want to. I don't know if we're going to do it on the podcast, but we'll definitely do it on the main Gaming Geek channel.
Yeah.
That'll be hilarious. It's so interesting to me to find out when people started gaming and what they gamed on and, how they've kept gaming throughout the years. And I think, like, what you started with, whether it have been a console, a handheld, or a PC, I think that does sway what you eventually get into and, like, how you experience games, how you expect to experience games.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we see it now because we grew up being console gamers.
And we still, my default is console.
And we catch hate for not giving, like, PC enough love, even though we play PC games all the time.
Right.
But,
it doesn't matter.
yeah. So we're, we get stuck in our ways like that. Oh, sorry. Don't spill water on yourself, bro.
And then my favorite comment from this one was Snoop Dogg. And it was just a fake PSP. I don't know why I thought that was hilarious, but I think that is so funny that this person's first gaming device was a fake PSP.
And it must have run pretty well because they are still to this day watching gaming content on YouTube. So they must have got hooked.
They must have got hooked. I can't imagine what it was. I in my mind, it is like one of those things that looks like a PSP, but it really is like an old emulator that plays like old NES games and probably had like 200 NES games on it.
Yeah.
And it just looked like a PSP, but it absolutely wasn't.
Something they bought off like AliExpress and it just came preloaded with like...
Or it was just like something from the dollar store or something that looked generally like a PSP. Like, I have no idea. And I even asked, like, what do you mean a fake PSP? And I think they replied, yeah. I don't remember.
Well, you can still buy some crazy looking emulators and, some of them probably do try to look
I would be interested in if it played PSP games, but
Yeah.
it was just like a knockoff. Like, I'm sure that exists. I remember, like, weren't there like Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, like fake ones that you could still put the cartridges in back in the day, or is that not a thing?
I don't remember that being a thing.
I feel like I remember things, like everything I remember that was like a fake or a knockoff was like just an emulator, and it ran like, just ROMs of mostly like NES games, or maybe even like Atari games or something.
You can pay like $1 million now and get yourself an analog pocket if you want a Game Boy that plays Game Boy games that isn't a Game Boy.
Yeah. But I think that is so funny. A fake PSP, first gaming device.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that he had enough time to play games, between like recording albums with Dr. Dre and all that.
Snoop Dogg sure does haven't. You got to be a little bit incognito with the profile picture. You can't just put, your face.
Is that a corgi?
No, that's
what kind of dog is that?
That's the Doge dog. I don't know.
It is the Doge dog, yeah.
I don't know what kind of dog it is. I would, if I had to guess, I don't think that's a corgi. No.
It's a Shiba Inu.
I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, me neither.
Shiba, is that like a Japanese dog?
I don't know, man. I already X'd out the tab.
Okay.
Well, I think we've reached our final segment here, Randy. And normally you start this, so I'm going to jump in and start there. We're going to change this up.
Sure.
So we're going to talk about what games we're playing. We're both playing Guardians.
We're both playing Guardians.
In fact, I was going to be playing it right now before we decided to immediately record this podcast because of our unavailability on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day. So we got Guardians going on at my house. I've got Triangle Strategy going on, which I'm nearing the final act of. Mm-hmm. That game's nuts. I actually recently finished it early because I screwed up some like story beat where you have to like find a certain thing, and then it like took me to a basically a cutscene and dramatically told me about how I had been wiped off the face of the earth and how like I lost the war, and then it was like the end, and I was like, what? And then a menu popped up and it was like, it appears that you missed an extremely important key in this chapter. We suggest reloading your autosave. And
so you are at the end because you've already experienced an ending. There must be multiple
ending. Yes. Yeah, that's true. And ending, but it really didn't want you to end on that.
No, they're like, look, we don't end here.
That's the dark timeline.
Yeah,
that's the timeline when the hero of time loses to Ganon. So I'm playing that, and then of course I'm always playing Sea of Thieves and always wanting to play Sea of Thieves, which is still a constant problem.
Yeah.
But I'm really enjoying streaming Sea of Thieves still. I mean, we finally hit our 50 followers, so we're finally affiliates on Twitch.
It's good. Feels good.
Feels good. The streams are fun. We've got some regulars that are coming back, and
Oh yeah, lots.
that's always so fun. I look forward to that every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday.
So I've got an interesting story to tell you about what games I'm playing. So right now, besides Catherine and I are playing Stardew Valley, which we've been playing for quite a while. We actually tried to play Don't Starve together, and we were playing the console version. The console version wasn't very well optimized. It was impossible to read anything. We had no idea what was going on. We just decided pretty immediately. We played it one night and decided it just wasn't a game for us. So I sent it back to GameFly.
Okay.
So right now, I'm really, besides Sea of Thieves, I'm really only playing Guardians, and which is odd for me because I'm normally playing lots of games.
Yeah, you
And
are.
let me tell you, I have had this week has been war with the mail. I have been so dissatisfied with the United States Postal Service.
Okay.
Let me tell you why.
Well, let's light them up.
Okay. First of all, I've been using GameFly, and I sent last Friday a new game came out, Nintendo Switch Sports. Okay. GameFly shipped Nintendo Switch Sports on the Wednesday before that. Okay. So that was 2 days, and they said, it'll be there either on Friday or Saturday. It'll be there within a day or so of when it's supposed to release. Maybe the
Yeah.
day of, maybe the next day.
Yeah.
Okay. So they shipped it on time. Like they put it out.
Yeah.
Okay. I still have not got that.
Okay.
And it's been over a week now.
Okay.
It's been what? They shipped it last Wednesday. That means it has been 10 days. And the USPS has not gotten it to me yet. All right. They also shipped me another game because they upgraded me to 2 games per.
Right.
Well, that other game still hasn't. As they shipped it maybe 1 or 2 days later, it hasn't came. So the mail has been super, super slow. I ordered a hat off Amazon that was not Prime shipping, but regular shipping to USPS. That thing has taken like 2 weeks, and they shipped it like 2 weeks ago. I don't know
This
why.
is a hat?
A hat.
Okay.
Okay.
What system is this
The hat is
playable on?
It's not. It is gaming related. I do believe it is a Legend of Zelda. It has the
Triforce.
It doesn't have the Triforce.
The Master Sword.
No, it has the emblem. What is it? It's not
The crest of the royal family?
No, I
Hey,
can't remember.
Randy?
Anyways, it is a Legend of Zelda hat. But the most interesting thing that has happened this week
Probably just the Triforce.
is that I ordered a. This was also a long time back, and they shipped it quick through USPS. I ordered a webcam.
Yes, you did.
I ordered a webcam. Okay.
Oh, I remember. I know this story.
And it takes forever to get to me, but it took like 2 weeks to get to me. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because the person didn't ship it on time.
Yeah.
They shipped it immediately. And it finally gets to me. I think it was not yesterday, but the day before. And I get home and I see the box on the front porch. I'm like, this is weird because this box looks way bigger than a webcam.
Right.
And then I pick it up, and sure enough, it's from the person I bought it from on eBay. It's got their name and it's got my name on it. I'm like, well, that's weird. I pick it up and it's heavy. And I'm like, that's so weird. I was like, did they package it in like, what did they pack around this thing? They didn't use styrofoam. They must have packaged this webcam in blankets or something. I don't know because it is heavy. So I go and open
Weighted
it.
blankets.
Like, I don't know, but it was heavy. It was like almost 20 pounds or something. It was heavy.
Yeah.
And then I go and open it, and it's an Xbox One.
That is so funny.
No idea why, but it's an Xbox One. And I'm like, what? This is not. I was like, did they put this webcam in an Xbox One box? So I open it up. Nope, it's an Xbox One. Looks really good condition, like almost brand new. You could tell it was used, but it was like perfectly clean. It looked great. Had everything in there, the original box, the controller, everything. I'm like, this is bizarre. And then I go check my eBay, and they're like, hey, I just got a picture from someone else, and they've got your webcam, and I'm pretty sure you've got their Xbox.
Nice.
So now I have to not only do that, but then they're like, okay, you're going to ship. They were like, if you would just ship that, I'll pay for it. But if you could ship the Xbox to them, they're going to ship the webcam to you. And luckily this time it's through UPS, not USPS. So maybe I'll actually get the webcam here soon.
Maybe. Well, Trouble in Paradise with GameFly.
Well, it's not GameFly's problem.
No, it's not GameFly's fault, but it is
a side effect of using GameFly.
It is a necessary part of the process.
Because I know exactly when GameFly shipped it, and USPS has been really dropping the ball. They've been really slow lately. What can you do?
Sucks, man.
Yep. What can you
I
do?
hope you get your hat and your webcam and your games.
I hope maybe
real
today.
soon.
Maybe when I finish this podcast, I'll go check the mail and everything will be there.
Maybe so. Well, speaking of finishing this podcast, we got to go play a gig pretty soon, so we probably should.
We probably should wrap it up. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, guys, until next time, I'm Randy.
And I'm Daniel.
And this has been Gaming Gig.
Peace out.